Alright, good afternoon everyone. This is Dave again with Flying 11X Decals. This is going to be the second video of my 148 scale Kinetic F-18D build. The kit I'm using is actually the ATARS boxing. I'm not going to be building this particular kit as an ATARS fitted F-18D. It's just going to be a standard D. The markings are still kind of up in the air. I have a couple of ideas of which squadron I'm going to do. Because this is for someone else. Like I said, the other video was posted on Facebook. Went live, ended up going about an hour. Of course, a lot of the audio on that video was muted by Facebook because of the music that I had playing in the background. I kind of had a feeling that that was going to happen, and sure enough, it did. But without spending too much time talking, I'm going to go ahead and get into the build. I'm going to kind of talk as I go. Once the video is completed and posted onto YouTube, if you've got any questions, comments, feel free to ask, and I'll do my absolute best to answer them in the replies. So let's go ahead and get started on the build. And because I'm old, I need my magnifiers. For those of you out there that don't do it, and if you're not sure exactly what I'm doing now, I always do a light sanding of all the mating surfaces before actually putting them together and applying glue. It just seems to I feel it gives it a little bit more bite, a little bit of a rough surface to help the glue adhere. Not really sure if that's a thing. It's something that I've always done. Something that was showed to me by other modelers in the past, and it's something that I've continued to do whenever I actually am able to sit down and work on a model. My tools are pretty simple. I've got a 320 grit sanding stick that I've had forever, and my new sanding sticks of choice for some other applications are from Infini. These things are absolutely amazing. I mean, they're awesome. If you haven't used them, I would highly recommend them. I get mine from Sprue Brothers. They're not that expensive, and they last a while. All right, so and that was dumb. This is sort of the second Kinetic F-18D or F-18 kit that I've built, actually. The first one, I started it, was making some pretty good progress, and then just lost interest and ended up selling the kit for cheap, just to get it out of the collection, start over. I don't know why. I've always had a habit, if I start a kit and lose interest in the kit, there's been several occasions where I've never restarted that kit to finish it. I've gotten rid of it, and then started on a new one. And I think I'm just not happy with the work that I did, and you kind of lose that motivation. And it's always nice to start fresh. And you try to not make the same mistakes the second time around, so you don't lose interest in the next one. And of course, the music that I've got playing in the background this time, I'm really hoping that it's low enough to where it doesn't get flagged for copyright violation. Can't work in silence. I gotta have something playing in the background. And the other video, I had country music, which is something I enjoy listening to. And it all got flagged for copyright and YouTube killed the audio. So, like I said, just kind of hope that doesn't happen this time around. So either I didn't sand enough, or there's just a natural gap in the wingtip here. Not too concerned about it, simply because once the Lao 7 missile launcher is glued onto the wingtip, that's not going to be visible. So for anyone else building the kit, I wouldn't worry too much about that seam. Just leave it be. The right wing. Now let me sand the left, which is the one that I thought I was doing a moment ago. Of course, I'm sanding and I'm cleaning this part of the wing, and it just dawned on me that it's on the inside of the fuselage and isn't really going to matter if I sand it there or not. Now there are plenty of other builds out there, especially here on YouTube, and posted on various modeling groups that are heavily edited. I know to save time. I'm well aware of that, and I know a lot of you really don't want to sit in front of a computer for half hour, 45 minutes to an hour watching someone else build a model. I totally get that. However, one of the reasons why I decided to do this, one, I work from home. I own and operate Flying Leatherneck decals here out of the house, and of course I've got a little side project that I do called Models for Marines, where I build scale models for fellow Marines. And I'm at the bench as often as I can be. There's obviously always exceptions. And I thought, okay, I'm here. Let me go ahead and just record what I'm doing for a couple reasons. One, it's probably a little bit easier than taking notes or trying to remember different things you did on a particular kit. I figure if I have an actual video history of a particular build, in this case the Kinetic F-18D, the next time I build one, I can go back, scan through the video, if I forgot how I did a particular task or a particular step, I can go back and watch the video. Now also, if during this build I happen to make a mistake, and the next time I go to build one of these kits, I can go back and watch the video and not make the same mistake again. And then of course I figured there may be other modelers out there that maybe you do need the motivation. I know I do. I'll be honest with you. I do watch videos from time to time to try to kind of get the modeling juices flowing, and come back to the bench and try to get something accomplished. My hope is that while you're actually watching this video, that you're working on a model yourself, whether it's the same kit or a different kit. Kind of look at it as a group build. I said I'm hoping that the work that I'm doing here will kind of help motivate you to pull a kit off the shelf, get it on the workbench, and actually get something done. And there may be an instance where I do something specific on my kit, and you either like the technique or you like how I did something, and it may help you in that regard as well. And while I've been building models forever, I am far from an expert model builder. I still have a lot to learn. I still make a lot of mistakes. But I do my best. And again, I hope, my hope is that what I do with this particular kit and subsequent kits that I build and record, that you'll take something away from each video that will help you on your builds. One of the things I love about Tamiya, the extra thin cement, is, as you just saw, like I just applied the cement to these parts, and it still has a little bit of curing to do, but within a couple minutes you could actually start sanding the seam. And one of the things that I learned on accident is because the glue hasn't completely cured yet, and the plastic is still a little it's still melting and fusing. If you start sanding within a couple minutes, a minute or two of applying the glue, I'll see if I can show it up real quick. If you look, I mean, the seam almost goes away. What I think might be happening is the plastic is soft enough to when you actually start to do the light sanding, it kind of blends. It kind of blends the two plastic pieces together, and then once it cures, that seam is almost like completely gone, and there's no other filler needed. And once you hit it with a primer coat or your first coat of paint, the seam like all but disappears. So that's done. Come back over it with the 2500. Of course, now once I get the bottom fuselage attached, there'll be there'll be a little bit more seam work and sanding that needs to be done. Now the seam along the leading edge of the wings right here, I've got a little bit of glue that kind of squeezed out of the seam. Not that big a deal. I wouldn't worry too much about getting this completely cleaned up, because once you put the leading edge flaps on, it's going to be hidden. So maybe just do a light, actually what I can do is some of the glue that's squeezed out here. And one thing, don't forget when you're actually cleaning up your seams, because the upper and lower wing halves are separate, you do want to make sure that on the inside that you get the seam right here. Make sure you get it on the inside. The outside, I wouldn't worry about it too much. As I said, once you attach the Lao 7 wingtip missile launcher, it's not going to be visible. You might just want to clean up the tip right here. Now on the very inside corner right here, again, you're going to have the outside edge of the leading edge flap that's going to cover that. So probably from about right here in, you don't have to worry too much about the seam. From that part going outboard, you know, make sure you clean up that spot. I've been to contests in the past. Of course, one of the first things I look for on the table is the F-18. For those of you that don't know, aren't aware, you probably don't. Maybe you don't care. I spent 22 years in the Marine Corps as an aviation ordnanceman, and almost my entire career was spent working on the armament equipment for the F-18. It's an aircraft that I'm very passionate about. I've got hundreds, if not thousands, of personal photos. I've taken measurements of the aircraft. I've got technical publications, you know, NATOPS manual, airframes manual, all the ordnance assembly publications. Pretty much almost every technical publication on the F-18 aircraft. And so my knowledge of the plane is pretty good. And I always like looking at the completed models on the table, and you know, just to see for myself, you know, how the modeler did with regard to assembly. You know, see if the modeler did their research. One thing I've never done is I have never ever like found flaws or anything that's wrong on another modeler's F-18 and corrected them. It's not my place. One of the things you always have to take into consideration, you know, let's say there's an aircraft out there that you know a lot about. The F-18, for example. Let's say you know the airplane inside and out, all its intricacies, all the differences in panel line changes or antenna arrangements based on, you know, a specific time frame or a bureau number or a modification to the airframe. Okay. Just because you and I know that, and just because you and I might be aware of that, that doesn't mean that every modeler is. And there's also plenty of modelers out there that they know the changes and they don't care. I'm a perfect example of that. I know all, for the most part, I know all the differences in the different blocks of F-16s, just simply because I've done my research for a few aircraft that I want to build. I know some of the major differences of the different F-14s. There's other aircraft out there that I know the differences for. When I come to build those specific aircraft, if I ever actually get around to building them, I may or may not make the changes. Kind of depends. It's going to be dependent on how I feel at that particular time. I'm not as wrapped up in F-16s and F-14s and F-15s as I am aircraft like the F-18, the A-6B, the AV-8B, CH-53, CH-46, you know, pretty much anything that the Marine Corps has operated. It's a passing interest. And to be quite honest, there's plenty of F-18s and A-6s and Harriers and Prowlers that I may not make the changes to those either. Again, it all going to depend on how I feel. So if you go to a show, if you go to a contest, and you see something wrong with a modeler's model on the table, leave it be. Just make your notes, but don't go out of your way to criticize the modeler's work. Don't go out of your way to correct him, because you don't know, how he's going to ask. Ask first. Hey, are you open for critique? Are you interested? Would you be interested in learning about something that I noticed on your model? Gauge his facial expression. Okay, he may not want to hear it, and again, he may not care. A lot of modelers, this is nothing more than a hobby. This is something to pass the time so they can enjoy. Don't kill that for them. Just enjoy their work. Right? And again, unless they're up for criticism, don't give it. Especially unsolicited. That's just not cool. But I always kind of went off on a little rant there, which really wasn't what I was planning to do. All right, well, the lower wings are on. The seams are cleaned up, actually, except for this here. And, I'm looking at the screen here, and I'm hearing little dings go off in the background. And I see the stop recording button highlighted. And I also see the stop streaming button highlighted, which now has me believing that I'm streaming this live. And I didn't know I was. So if you're watching, if I am streaming this live, and again, because I don't have Facebook up. If I am streaming this live, what's up? And if you're watching, what's up? I hope you're doing well. So I guess here in a few minutes, I'm going to find out with 100% certainty if I was live streaming or if I am live streaming. Look at that. One of the problems with having a long beard when you're modeling is it tends to get in the way sometimes. All right, so that wing is done. Hold on, drop my little paper towel. Kind of just noticed my music stopped too, so I'm actually going to get that going again. So Let's see what we got. Give me just a moment. I'm going to check something. All right, so I don't know if I'm streaming or not. So I guess, again, I'm going to find out here shortly. Well, it looks like I'm already 36 minutes into this. I've got the upper fuselage mostly done. I've got the lower wing halves on yesterday. I applied the turtle back. You know, obviously I used the piece for the two-seat canopy. Again, this is going to be an F-18D. The speed brake, air brake, speed brake, whatever you want to call it. For now, I'm going to leave it off simply because I'm not 100% positive which decal choice I'm going to pick. And if one of the options that I have in mind, there was the U.S. flag painted on the speed brake. So what I'm undecided right now is, again, which markings I'm going to use, and then how I'm going to display the air brake once the model is done. So that's either going to be in the down position, which is standard for when it's on the deck, or it's going to be in the raised position. Now, when the F-18 is parked, obviously the air brake isn't up. However, there's air shows, other displays. If there's artwork on the air brake and the squadron wants to show it off, they can raise it, lock it in the up position, and it basically just makes it easier, for the viewing audience to see it. Because obviously, if it's down and the aircraft's on the deck, then you can't see it. So depending on what goes on the air brake here, will determine whether or not it's going to be in the down or up position. So I've still got some time to choose, and we'll go from there. So, all right, well, I spent a fair amount of time kind of rambling. I may be back later on today. I'm not 100% sure. If I don't come back today, it'll be tomorrow. My hope is to have some more sub-assemblies done, kind of show the fit of the kit as it goes together, ramble on some more, so I can grace you with my wisdom. Kidding. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. Actually, let's clean up a little bit more here. Something else I would actually like to see in the comments, and this will really help me for subsequent videos, because again, this is something that I want to do often. Again, so like I'm here at home. I work from home. I'm working on the models anyways, so it's not taking any extra time to turn on the camera to record when I actually sit at the bench. But what I would really, really like to see in the comments from anyone that watches this video is, how long of a video do you feel is the most ideal? 10 minutes, 20 minutes? Right now, it looks like I'm pushing 40. Of course, I don't expect you to sit here watching the entire video all at once. But if I cap these off, if I worked on a model and recorded for about an hour, whether you watched it all at once or in segments, would you feel that's a good amount of time? Or would you prefer 10, 15, 20-minute videos? And the reason why I'm asking that is simply because recording 10, 15-minute videos at a time seems almost like, I don't want to say a waste, but there's not a whole lot that can be accomplished in 10 or 15 minutes, unless I was doing really small sub-assemblies. And then if I did 1, 10, 15, 20-minute video a day, it would take forever to actually finish this model. But I'm curious to hear your input on what you think is an ideal amount of time for these types of videos. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and clean up the seam. I'm gonna go ahead and shoot for an even hour on this video as well. That's what I did yesterday. It was rough. It was, I think, almost right at an hour. What I'm standing here is, I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to try to, I don't think you can see it. But anyways, because Kinetic molded this part, onto the bottom of the fuselage, where anybody that's built the Hasegawa kit knows that pretty much from right here this way, this is all a separate piece. And because of the way Kinetic molded this kit and the multi-part mold that's required to produce a part like this, there are mold separation lines that run along the length here, here, they're kind of here, and they also, on the back of the fuselage, they're right in this area as well. So make sure that when you're working on this kit, you address those. Now, there are some kits, and I've actually seen this, the Tamiya F-14, as a matter of fact, has similar lines. And I've seen a couple kits where they're almost non-existent. I mean, they're so faint that unless you knew that they were already there, you wouldn't notice them. But I've also seen a couple kits where they are pretty noticeable. And I think it just comes down to a particular run. You know, it could be how the mold was operating that day. I mean, it could be any number of factors that cause some to be more visible than others. Kind of like what I'm noticing right now is the one on this side is more pronounced than the one on this side. So, but anyways, you don't need to sand a large area. You just want to do just enough to make it go away. So right now I'm starting with the 320, which leaves a relatively rough finish. All right, so then once you knock it down and you make it disappear with the 320, come back with a finer sanding stick. And again, these Infinity sanding sticks are absolutely amazing. This one's the 2500 grit, and just give it a quick kind of blend it all in, smooth out the heavier scratches. Kind of shines it up pretty nice. You can see how it's rough there, and then once it's hit with the 2500 grit, it pretty much smooths it all out. Again, you don't need to be heavy-handed in these steps. It's better to go over it relatively light, because you can always come back over it again. But if you go too heavy the first time, you may destroy some of the surface detail, and it might not be as easy to replace if you make it disappear. So, you can see both sides are kind of smoothed out. I did notice right here, I just caught it just enough in the light where there is a separation line, very, very faint, right along the edge here. And all I'm going to do with that is take the 2500 sanding stick, give it a few good swipes. And that took care of it. So we're at 49 minutes now. Another 10. I'll find a few little small tasks to complete. Let's get that's done. That's interesting. What I was referring to right there, what I found interesting is the mold seam line on this side was lighter than the one on this side. However, up here under the intakes, the one on this side was lighter than this side. That was So I just kind of found that a little interesting how they were on opposite sides, and actually hitting that area right there, the forward section of the Sparrow missile well, kind of brought out the mold separation line, and that knocked it down. Not sure if this is going to be necessary, but I'm going to remove. There's a real small step right up here, and I believe, actually no, I don't believe, I know that that is going to be hidden by the intake and the splitter plate. But whether or not it's actually going to affect the fit right there, I'm not sure. So I'm going to remove it. Alright, so it's going to be kind of hard to see. But right here, I don't know if you can see it, there's actually a pretty good step right in these corners. And then there's a mold seam line, again, that runs right along the fuselage right here. These two particular areas, personally, I'm gonna try to knock it down just a little bit, smooth it out, but I wouldn't worry too much about it for one reason and one reason only. Again, once you get the intakes on here, and once the splitter plate is right there, and especially if you're going to load something on the center line, and the center line tank is right here, that's going to be all but invisible. You're really not going to be able to see that. I said on this particular one, I'm going to try to knock it down a little bit. Not going to worry about it too much. Maybe just enough to get rid of this gross step right here. And when I hit it with the sanding stick, the actual sanding dust really shows how much of a step there actually is. And it's scale-wise, it's pretty substantial. You know what? I'm gonna And that's probably the dogs fighting over bed space. Alright, so for day 2, alright, so I've got the upper fuselage, I've got the wings assembled. I said yesterday, took care of the aft turtle deck. Today, I cleaned up the seams for the lower fuselage. Got everything pretty much sanded smooth. Little tiny ejector pin, I need to take care of that. There's also some very, very minor flash. Some very minor flash right in this area that needs to be removed. Sorry, it's yeah, a little cat or dog hair. It's one of the things, obviously, anybody else out there that's got pets, you know that their hair seems to find its way into everything. But anyways, there's a little bit of flash on the main landing gear wells that needs to be kind of cleaned up a little bit. You've got, on this particular kit, there was a pretty prominent step right here on both sides just inside the intake. Again, that's due to the multi-part mold. There were some seams right here where there was the step from the mold on the aft side. Those were cleaned up. This area also right here, and very faintly along this line right here. Again, that's just where the two-part molds come together. So that's going to be it for today. And tomorrow we may start on the inside. I'm going to start putting together some of the cockpit assemblies. Work on the nose, and I guess we'll kind of see what else we can get done tomorrow as well. So again, thanks for stopping by. For anyone that watched this video in its entirety, I appreciate you taking the time to do so. I'm hoping you might have learned something, or if you have something that you see I could have done differently or I could have done better, by all means, make sure you post in the comments. If you've got any questions, comments, concerns about the length of the video, whether I'm rambling on or talking too much, or if you feel I need to concentrate more on what I'm actually doing instead of all the other range of topics that I kind of was going on about throughout the video, again, feel free. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I would much rather hear your critiques than for you to stay silent and then no longer watch my videos because I'm doing something that's absolutely driving you batshit crazy. So my ultimate goal is to continue to make these videos in the hopes that they help my fellow modelers, as well as get my fellow modelers to provide input for me so I can continue to learn and improve myself. So with that, again, thank you for stopping by. It's very much appreciated, and enjoy the rest of your day and have a good afternoon.